Good afternoon. That was a wild echo. All right. So, WarDriving. A brief history before I say anybody who I am. It's not all encompassing. We are just breaking down some of the shoulders of the people that I'm standing on in order to build the things that I've built. Just giving people credit for building community, driving technology in the early years, which I think for some of us is the early 2000s, so maybe you already had Wi-Fi and everything. I skip over in the middle because we have a good run of people doing Wi-Fi and WarDriving, and then we kick off to devices and handhelds that everybody can use, make it a lot easier. The goal here is to kind of show you some tools, show you some pieces and parts of it, and inspire you, if you are any radio frequency curious, to get some tools going, get into the community, get into the Discords, and be involved. So that worked, and that is large. So I'm Dustin. I go by BusySignal in the socials. If you Google me, you'll see a bunch of places I've been. You'll also see a wedding photographer. That's also me. So let's read the disclaimer. I don't think any of this is really going to hold up, but none of this information is representative of future, past, previous, whoever employers. I'm here on my own. I'm not necessarily mentioning any companies today that I've been a part of. So WarDriving, we're going to kick off to, what it is and what it isn't. We are just collecting the location of Wi-Fi. We are monitoring passively in some systems. If you're using a phone, you are active scanning. A lot of people do this for educational research, understanding what's around them. This is to get you to collect this data for geolocation. At some point, people can use various sites to get geolocation based on these Wi-Fi points that have been included in systems if you don't have access to GPS, right? So somebody else has already collected some Wi-Fi and a location, and this helps speed up location services. And Apple and Google are already doing this in the phone anyway. They're using their own systems. And then we have an organization called Wiggle that is kind of a little bit more open source or a little bit easier to access than those. There we go, that's the skip. That's what I was waiting for. So you have Wiggle so that you can use a little bit easier than trying to fire up a Google API or an Apple API. So the bigger key that I want to sit on is what it's not. Okay, it's not disruptive, it's not malicious. There is no intent there to be very, very specific about causing trouble. We're not stealing data. It's not an offensive attack. There's no de-authing within the actual aspect of WarDriving. All right, WarDriving is just a collection, whether it's active scanning with your phone or passive scanning with Kismet Wireless or other devices. It is not intrusive. That's the key here. Can people include intrusive and attacks and things within their methodology of WarDriving? Yes. When I get a little bit pure about WarDriving, that's got nothing to do with it. We're not doing anything like that. So we talked earlier about, just a moment ago, about the shoulders that we're standing on, where it came from, how we got here. So in 99, 2000, Peter Shipley, he coins this phrase, WarDriving, based on his previous work of war dialing. War dialing was used in the movie War Games. I don't know if you guys have seen it. You should probably check it out. And so he sets forth on driving around and automating this stuff in the early 2000s, right? Just 99, 2000 timeframe. And he's one of the first to automate it. So people were doing this, right? There are other people that took their cards and they went driving and they would write it down and take some log notes. But he starts to automate it, and he really starts to share this information. And this is just like a next step for him as written on his blog. That's the citing information. At the very end of this doc is the appendix. So you have this war dialing that he used to do. Now he's calling it WarDriving for collecting Wi-Fi. So war dialing was telephones, something else he did. And this was all purely about sharing information. The war dialing aspect was the insecurities of dialing phone numbers. HD mentioned it earlier in a talk where he did a bunch of dialing phone numbers, right? Peter's doing the same thing, and he was working on sharing insecurities in people's setups and the path of this insecurity of setting up infrastructure and being insecure at the start. So wireless kicks right into that. 99, 2000, 2001, everybody's got a Linksys router, everybody fires it up, everybody buys an Orinoco card, and they're good to go. Nobody had wireless before. We barely even had broadband in 2000 in most areas, so now we've got wireless, and it's insecure. And so that's where Peter starts documenting his pieces of all these access points that he's finding that are insecure and reporting on it. And his purpose, very, very specific, was about get better, be better, secure your stuff, and he would try to track that. So I covered that whole slide. In parallel to that, we've got some partnership and some East and West Coast type activity. Peter's on the West Coast doing some of this stuff. We have Chris Hurley, AKA Romer. He starts to do this with local folks on the East Coast, and he makes a bit of a community effort about bringing people together to do this. So he gets involved in the NetStumbler forums, which was a site that had an application that ran on Windows that could document this Wi-Fi and WarDriving. And so he gets people together, and they're gonna go out, and they're gonna start tracking it. And they start to get a little gamification of it. They start to, how many did you find? How many did you find? Where were your numbers? How many are unencrypted? How many are encrypted? He starts building that whole thing out. So he starts getting involved with building out worldwide WarDrive, which turns out to be this around the same time that DEF CON has their talks and Hacker Summer Camp. So we have a first worldwide WarDrive in August of 2002. He immediately has a second one, some learnings from that about maybe a little bit too close, a little bit burning out. So then they have a few more, and they build out these lists, and they're sharing these lists, and they're constantly working through how many are insecure, how many are not secure. They do see a trend. By 2002, it looked like they start to see an increase in WEP. We know that's not secure anymore, but then it was the best they could do. And so we have that piece. I didn't mention at the beginning, there's a lot of links here, and I cite a lot of the details of where I found my information. It'll be in the appendix, it's in this piece, and then it'll share in the Discord or my GitHub, you'll find it somewhere. So anyway, so these videos are great. Chris in 2003 does in DEF CON 10 and DEF CON 9, there are the videos. Chris does a presentation on DEF CON 11, in DEF CON 11, and he works through what he found, what everybody worked through, and again, about building community, bringing people together, putting forth, getting access to information, sharing the information, and understanding where we are in Wi-Fi. He also wrote a book, that link is there. Obviously, it's a little bit dated. That book was published a bunch of years ago, but it does have some fundamentals in there about securing your stuff. This is where I start to talk about, this is where Chris starts to bring out, they get a worldwide WarDrive coin going. They start to bring out the community members that are scoring. They start to really build out more gamification. NetStumbler is also driving some of this stuff where they start to log it. And we have a time frame here where things do just move on status quo. NetStumbler, Wiggle, everybody is taking folks' data, they're mapping it, they're sharing it, and they're showing it forward. We skip through a little bit. We have 2600 and Dragorn. They get together, and I wasn't able to identify the person that Dragorn worked with. I'm sure somebody will correct me later in the Discord. Dragorn writes this program Wireless, Kismet Wireless, which I love, and I could do like 17 hours on of just why you should have that product. Completely open source, amazingly documented, and another incredible Discord community for asking questions and trying to build stuff. So Dragon writes this great article. They go out, New York City, 2002, antenna on the roof, a GPS on the dashboard type of stuff, and do some logging. If you are a 2600 member and can get this article, it's pretty interesting to read. They break down, Dragon breaks down the entire process of what they did, and then he breaks out the packets for, again, 802.11b, dated 2002, right? You guys could do the math of how many years ago that was. So while this isn't really about me and not exactly wanting to make this about me, my purpose was, how did I get involved? I started in a company in 2001. We were doing a bunch of wireless stuff, and we had this beautiful campus, and I was driving around and seeing how far I could get a beacon from a Wi-Fi access point I duct taped to a window on the 9th floor. It was pretty far. This is also the New York Reservoir, so the cops weren't really too happy about us parked there very long. We were parked right next to the sign that says, "Don't park here, this is the reservoir." But in the end, I was able to clearly get a couple of beacon pops for that access point. So this seemed new to me and very interesting, right? Finding an itch for yourself, finding RF curiosity or any other thing, getting out and doing it. The panel before talking about passion, big deal, right? Is if you can figure out a way to get out and do it, get out and do it. Along with that, this is another time where I was driving around Long Island, and on my way home, I found a beacon of one of our access points at the time across the road. So I was able to work with, at the time it's not Zebra anymore, but at the time it was Symbol Technologies, and we asked for, hey, maybe you want to move that access point. Which brings us back to WarDriving in general and gaining awareness. There's really no reason to have this RF bleed all the way out, whatever that is. I measured it, right? 552 feet to another place where you can't even see the car parked. Seems not like something you want to do. So that's how I got started. August 2002, I built this system, basically right out of NetStumbler forums on what you needed to buy and what you needed to use. And I went off, right? Soldering at the time, I only see a couple of people here that might remember, breaking open the Orinoco card, soldering onto the antenna, getting an end connector, getting a magnet on the roof, getting a GPS in the dash. At the time, I wasn't really familiar with Linux. Windows XP carried me there, right? So then I used the USB to serial adapter, and I had to hack that apart and cut it and get power to the GPS so that I didn't lose power on the GPS on the dash. Because the last thing you want is to come home after a lot of driving and find out you've got a bunch of things found with no GPS data. It's really sad face. I also seem to have none of my data from that time, and honestly, with the late recent stuff of the Internet Archive, I wasn't able to do too much digging recently. So we kind of skip forward a lot. In that time frame, 2002, 2004, 2005, all the way to 2010, the communities are going. NetStumbler is running, Wiggle is building their database, and in March of 2002, just a stat, they had 33,000, and like as of last week, they were at 1.4 billion access points that people have provided to them. All community members, all building out. In 2010, they released an app for Android being a little bit more open about what you can do with their radios. They were able to do a bunch of scanning with Wi-Fi. So now instead of getting your laptop, a bunch of radios, a GPS, and what else, an antenna on the roof, and running around, you could just do it in your phone. The magic about the phones is that you get a little bit more access to the radios. They're doing active scanning, so they're broadcasting like an any packet and asking for any access points to respond much faster than maybe the 200 milliseconds that you have for access points in general. So this reduces the entry level of what you need to WarDrive, which really enables more people to WarDrive or at least use the app and see what access points are around you. They have Bluetooth involved. So they're tracking Bluetooth and documenting Bluetooth to GPS and Wi-Fi to GPS. But this is really the pivot I see from getting anybody involved. You don't have a laptop, you don't have access to a laptop, fine. Can you get a phone that you may use as a phone, but then you may also use as your WarDriving phone? Now you can be there instead of all this other equipment that you would need. They use this data for both, commercial access if you want to use it for your business, and if you have an account, you can look up anything that you want. And so you drive around, you use this app, you grab mapping, you have your list of networks, and they handle it. And if you want free internet points, if you want to upload your data like by name, and you are enjoying free internet points in a scoreboard, they'll let you, score. So every net new, they'll give you a point. And so it really reduced the barrier for entry is my key here, okay? Is getting involved. And you don't get points for Bluetooth, by the way, just so you know, just net new Wi-Fi. So WarDriving, I was here last year. You can kind of see me here. This is what a map looks like in Wiggle. When you browse through, you have your access points in purple here. And anybody that's been driving a phone, you can kind of see even just your main roads of people that just maybe travel the same way all the time. That's data that people are submitting and uploading. So the Wiggle backend system will take that data. They will then trilaterate it. There we go. I didn't skip over that. And the more people that'll see an access point, the better way they can get signal. The better way they can get signal, the better way they can kind of do some, I'm just going to call it magic for the best words of my ability to explain what they're doing. And they'll give you this polygon shape if you wanted to kind of just see, how far that access point has been seen from various areas in the road and from people. And this will be the best trilateration that you'll have from them. I think a few people know where that is. So how do you WarDrive? There's a lot of banter about this type of stuff. You do you. Take care of what you want to do. If you're a tinkerer, if you're a builder, build something. If you just want to be a phone person, be a phone person. And like I said, Android app is super easy to use, super great. And there's a bunch of little microcontroller type devices like Jay Hewitt created a WarDriver. It's an ESP32 or a few of them on a board with a GPS, battery, and then you're good if you like to have little devices and play with them. I got kicked back into this around 2022, 2020. I don't know what was going on then, but we know. And so I built a box with a Raspberry Pi, a bunch of adapters. And so I start to come back, try to figure out where I want to be in WarDriving. I built that, and there's a whole write-up and a doc on how to do that if you really care. So the phones do really well because they can scan a bunch of channels probably a lot faster. They can scan a bunch of channels a lot faster. We have a lot of Wi-Fi spectrum to handle. This is all the channels data can be transmitted on, but we're only looking for Wi-Fi beacons. We're only looking for that broadcast that Wi-Fi exists. Those only happen on reduced channels. I don't know if I included it in the slide. I did. This is most of those. I think this is just Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6, not 6E. So these are just the channels that we're looking for. So what happens is you end up, the phones can scan a lot faster. They can handle and cover a lot of channels a lot better. When you have Wi-Fi adapters, your Wi-Fi adapter has to hop. It has to hop across all these channels. Kismet wireless default is 5 hops a second. It's really good. I've tweaked it and have bad experiences, so I would stay at 5. You have a breakdown on Kismet Wireless's site. Dragrun did a whole write-up on the math in terms of speed driving, how many hops a second you may have, and how many adapters would be beneficial. So there's a link to his site somewhere in here as well. we'll look it up. But we're looking specifically at the channels that a broadcast for an access point will happen on. This is called WarDriving mode or WarDriving override in Kismet Wireless, where it'll just grab your access points and log them. It's not going to grab any data. It's not going to do all of the other amazing freaking things Kismet Wireless does, but it'll just get you your list of data for pure WarDrive. I just want free internet points. I just want to upload my stuff. When you make a wiggle file, you actually just get a CSV file. So if you don't even want to upload it, you could just use it internally, use it for yourself. You'll have your logging. You can make your own maps, right? You can break Google Earth, that type of stuff. I keep doing it. I don't think there's a better way of getting maps to be done better with large data sets. And so this will just take you through 2.4 through 5 gigahertz. This is the entire spectrum all the way to Wi-Fi 6E. This is all the channels that you can capture data on, which is why the hopping and the more radios is important. And again, it gives the benefit to mobile devices for their ability to actively scan across these channels at a much higher rate. So mobile devices are really awesome to do this. But if you want to build stuff and you want to get deeper and you want to learn, which is kind of what my goal or my purpose for you folks out there is, you may want to build stuff. So I took a bunch of things that I had in boxes and parts, and I'm in love with Amazon sorely. So we order some stuff and I build a box. This is just some learnings. We get in later releases of Linux, we get some better performance at the packet and monitoring level in the kernel throughput. MediaTek chipset takes just a really great leap in terms of Wi-Fi monitoring and being able to monitor or listen to that air in the RF space and then shove it through the kernel and give it to Kismet. And then because the data in the air is a lot more, we have a lot more bandwidth in the air, you need a lot more bandwidth all downstream. So NVMe, higher CPU, better SSD storage really allows us to get data out of the kernel and to the disk with Kismet Wireless. So just really quick on some rigs. I'm trying to check time. I guess I'm moving faster, sorry. So just on some rigs, this was the first rig I built out of curiosity of, I know I need more radios. I know I kind of want more data. And I have some familiarity with USB, so I know I need external powered hub because I know the Raspberry Pi is not going to be powerful enough. And so this worked really well. I had a lot of learnings here. And we go back to community building, Dragorn in the Kismet Wireless Discord and the Radio Frequency Hackers Discord, which are thanked at the end here. I definitely got some guidance. On what needed to be configured. This is the one that's specifically written up on the blog. You can follow this. It's probably about 98% accurate right now in terms of steps and pieces because revisions of like OS and things have changed. But if you wanted to take one Wi-Fi card and put it in a Raspberry Pi and just see the RF spectrum in Kismet Wireless, you could do that very easily with that write-up. But if you want to get bigger and be more crazier, things start to get a little bit more dramatic, okay? So I put a UPS in the box. I get way more adapters than anybody needs, way more antennas on a car. Start utilizing an Intel NUC for the Kismet Wireless server, and we set up some, it's really me, but anyway, we work through all of that through these radio sources now. So now, I wasn't sure if there's a laser. We won't. You will see up top, there are these two Zima boards. They're just computers running USB to the USB hubs, but those are now Kismet sources. So another flexibility to Kismet Wireless is that you can now put out sensors anywhere you want and have them feed data over the network to the Kismet server wherever you want to host your Kismet server. It really offloads a bunch of the processing that would be needed. So I think I got to whatever we count here, 14 or 15 radios in here, and this is the rig that I had an upset win for a worldwide WarDrive. This is the rig that won that contest. But how do we get bigger? So that was 14 radios. Here's 16 radios and a Wi-Fi, a Hack-5 Coconut. So the Hack-5 Coconut covers all of the 2.4 spectrum. So I don't have to waste any channel hopping now in the other 16 radios for capturing Wi-Fi. So now all these radios are hopping 5 channels a second. They're all looking for beacons. I'm a data person, so I'm capturing a little bit more than beacons. And we store this here on the Intel NUC. The introduction of a cellular radio here is to upload wirelessly while on the road, so that while I'm driving for maybe 10 or 12 hours with breaks and, being polite, I can just kick off and upload to Wiggle while I'm paused. So Kismet Wireless is really the brain and soul for the things that I've been building for WarDriving. I can't stress enough how powerful this tool is. I don't think enough people are aware of it. So it does a lot more than just Wi-Fi. What Draghorn and Kismet Wireless has done is you have a lot more options than just Wi-Fi or Bluetooth to force feed data in if you want to see data. So I definitely want you to look at that. I have a slide at the end that we'll touch on. But that's the breakdown I mentioned here. Bluetooth, you can shove Bluetooth through Kismet Wireless and have a PCAP of it and look at it in Wireshark. It's pretty neat. There are some people out there that are doing drone detection with drone ID and over Bluetooth and pushing that into Kismet Wireless. And it's just amazing. But its feature set and its power to write straight to CSV really gives you the opportunity to make your maps, do your WarDriving, and get your data. We have a few more options of pictures here, just some other versions. That's the book that Chris Hurley wrote, Roamer. It's a really solid book for not just history, but for understanding methodology of thinking about being secure and securing things and paying attention to that type of stuff. Like I said, it's obviously a little old, but I really do feel like it makes sense to understand the shoulders that we're on and how we're building the things we're doing so that we can get better, but not just get better, but also bring people with us to get better, right? So bringing people up with us and building things and sharing. Some early iterations, these are really good fire hazards if you want to drive around with them. But again, it really I just want to really convey the point of nothing will be perfect on the way start, and you're going to have iterations if you start building boxes like this. It's kind of part of the fun to break these things down. So this is what the car sometimes look like. Panel antennas for directional. If I drive in the city, I want to use 45-degree antennas to kind of get a little bit higher to some of those taller buildings, and then an omnidirectional on the roof. This is what the inside of the car sometimes looks like, and if anybody could tell the restaurant that I'm at, that's kind of funny too, in terms of pausing, uploading, and monitoring. This is what the car looked like before we started reducing antennas. It's not really what this talk is about, but if you really want to make people turn heads and get a little bit weird, you can. That's in Brooklyn. I made a right on red in Brooklyn. You're not supposed to do that. So I got pulled over for that, and nobody ever asked about the antennas on the car. Which I was really figuring was going to be the first problem. So like I said, building and working through these things, these are all because of other people. I'm here to be incredibly thankful and incredibly grateful for those that have helped my journey with WarDriving, my journey with knowledge in terms of Wi-Fi, and the kickoff of other spectrums that have started this radio frequency curiosity, I'll call it, in terms of what else is out there. What can I see? What can you see? What's around you? Going back to using a wiggle map and finding out, has anybody driven past your house? Has anybody driven past your workplace? Those are all research tools to figure out if anybody has been nearby and they're WarDriving. Do you have employees bringing wiggle phones into your office? Might want to check into that. So I said it before, I wanted to, great big thank you to Draghorn and Kismet Wireless. It's an excellent product, a tool. It's open source. It's wicked documented, and the Discord is filled with polite people to kind of help you, because I certainly was helped. The Radio Frequency Hacker Sanctuary, Zero Chaos, certainly has provided a significant amount of guidance for answering all of my crazy questions, just like Draghorn did, and the rest of the community in the Radio Frequency Hackers Sanctuary Discord has been amazing. They do an incredible CTF wherever they are, DEF CON, Shmoo. I want to say they're at some other places too, but I can't think of it right now. So you'll go to their website and you'll find out where they are. But again, just a really good group of people, everybody being curious, everybody being interested, and everybody wanting to help. And this is a big key for all of this in terms of what can you do? Are you interested in anything? Get involved, get into the community, figure out where you want to be. If you have any interest in that, then that's awesome, right? And figuring out where to go. And I don't know if anybody knows where to go. So here I am trying to help you and drag you up the ladder of learning about anything with radio frequency. You can kind of hit up the team members in there. A lot of inspiration for my stupidly large rigs comes from Dark Matter. He built the Wi-Fi Cactus and the Wi-Fi Kraken and has done an incredible amount of stuff. And when you get all this data, you have to, if you want to parse it or if you want to do anything with it, it's really hard to get Wireshark to get in love with a 1 terabyte PCAP. Dark Matter absolutely needs a plug here for the PCAPinator tool that he has. It's a script that'll let you parse out a lot of stuff. So when you get deep into this data, if you care about it enough, you can really strip out things that you don't want, find your end case for PCAP, and then figure out, later on. I'm a GUI person, so I certainly want something in a graphical interface at some point, but can't load that large file in Wireshark, right? And then finally, but not last, is the Hard Hat Brigade, Mr. Bill, Monkey Dragon, a bunch of others in this group. They're a nice little wiggle group that have a community of good people talking and building other things. So this group took me under their wing. They've helped me with many things as well. And so they put wireless things on their helmets, on their hard hats. Battery-powered lights, things that move. They had a DEF CON table this year. I wasn't at DEF CON. But just a good group of people, and I just can't convey enough. It's very hard to find a good group of people that want to carry you and take you places, and this page is absolutely full of it. Obviously, if you are a jerk, then you don't deserve to be a part of this group. But in the end, what I just want to be very clear about is like when you have questions and when you want to be a part of something, if you're interested in Wi-Fi, WarDriving, RF, anything, these are the places that I would recommend going to be involved. Certainly thanking Wiggle, ARC, and Bob, the other team members there, have been great to the community in terms of stickers, right? We all love stickers. They've been great to the community of even coming out with stickers for different levels you are. I didn't show the scoreboard, but at different levels of points that you're at, there are different colors, there are different badges for things. The gamification is really, a good and sometimes not so interesting banter, but again, the gamification helps them, it helps you if you want to build stuff. Uthu as well. Chris Hurley Romer passed away recently, so I never got to meet him or anything like that, but his videos are all linked in this deck, so if you want to go see him, an absolutely interesting person to watch give a presentation, as well as the Peter Shipley link is in there as well. I burned through my slides. So I will just touch upon the appendix. I'm very, very keen on that first thing. It's a hill that I will die on. If you are interested in anything wireless and you are a little frustrated with the command line, the Kismet wireless tool will put you at ease. It has a web-based GUI. If you could just get it installed with the absolute instructions that are provided, you can run it, okay? And you can get your adapter connected, and you can run through it, and you can just see what's around you. You'll get a nice list of everything, and my hope for you is that you'll want to be interested in other things. You can send Bluetooth to it, like I said. You can send different SDR radios to it, or solid software-defined radios to it to key in on different frequencies. There's a lot of stuff out there that is just very unencrypted and very interesting, and you can see things. And I will actually update this talk. Russ gave a talk a bunch of years ago at Shmoo about what you can see within Kismet Wireless, and it's an absolute watch that you need to have. A couple of things, when you shove Bluetooth through it, this is what that adapter looks like. It'll grab the BTLE, it's gonna hop across these channels, and you see those stats within the details of the main page of Kismet. Oh, okay, so I did have this in here. So bonus. So, you know, when you fire up an SDR and you shove it into Kismet, you can see a lot of things. This is a Schrader device. This is something that's in somebody's car tire. I think I used the wrong version of Kismet for this thing, for this slide shot. So anyway, that's like your TPMS device. I'm getting tire pressure, I'm getting a temperature, getting a little SNR. I think it's a little wrong, but in the end, that's it. And you have 4 or maybe 6 on your car, depending upon what you drive, right? Those are all there. When I configured this at home, I started seeing everybody's Accurite temperatures. I started seeing water meters, right? There's a lot of stuff out there. And I don't know if I would have been able to do it as easily without Kismet. Can you do it with the SDR command line tools? Absolutely, right? I am not knocking that at all. Are you a GUI person? Do you want to see stuff graphically? Do you want to take nice screenshots and freak out your friends, right? Like this is really where I think a tool can help and benefit. So the website up there is where you'll be able to find anything that I've built or been doing. The GitHub will end up with these slides up there. And just again, I can't iterate it enough, being standing on shoulders of folks. The team members here at John for allowing me to speak is a great thing. I'm very appreciative of that, as well as everybody else that has helped me get to here. I have time for questions. I'm going to preface that with, I'm an analyzer. I might not be able to answer your question right away, and I'll tell you that please shoot me a message in Discord or hit me up with an email. But if there are questions, I will try to answer them. Yes, sir.
One reason I'm also a little hesitant to use Wiggle is that it feels like a one-way trap to your data. Like you give them data and then you're kind of limited what you get back. Is there any way to like get more bulk data out of Wiggle without running into blocking?
So the Wiggle team would absolutely want you to set up an account and register with them. In order to use that data commercially, they would prefer that you get in touch with them and work out an agreement with that. The API, which I don't use enough, does have some limiting blocking on how much you can get out of it. But I don't see him in the audience, but I was taught by a leader person on the scoreboard where you can hit that API and get a bunch of information even within a grid. And it'll report back out, and then you can either map it on your own or manipulate that data whichever way you'd like. But the Wiggle team has been very focused on privacy and accuracy. So I think if you want a bunch of data, you absolutely should reach out to them. When I look at their postings on socials and in their FAQ, they are very much about like, if you want data, please get an account. And then if you want a lot of data, like just reach out. I've never tried to get a lot of data, so depending upon what you're trying to do or where you want to go, you may need to just have that conversation with them. They've been so awesome about sharing their data of what's been submitted. I can't say that there should be any headache unless you're doing something super nefarious, which they've just recently implemented a bunch of extra things to kind of help block that. There was another question. Yes, sir.
How do you account for access points that get taken offline?
So that's gonna probably be in the Wiggle fact section. They keep a historical thing, so it'll tell you what date it was seen, and it'll tell you what the last date was that it was seen, or if it's been seen again, and then that'll be it as far as that. I don't think anything gets cycled out, and a lot of the query language actually involves maybe a start and end time, so you can figure out like when did it show up and when it was last seen, and then by then, and just by people swapping out of hardware and life cycles, if you're in the business or in the world of that, you kind of know that that's probably been replaced if it hasn't been seen in 3 years, especially if it's in, when we go back and looking at the maps, right? So when I look at a map like this, and clearly there's a lot of people that take these main intersections around this campus, if you see something that's there but hasn't been seen in a while, you can very easily deduct that it's probably not still there. But I don't have a direct answer for that. Oh, goodness.
So earlier you quoted 1.41 billion access points. Is that unique, or is that?
That is uniquely seen or uploaded to Wiggle over the course of the entire encompassing life cycle of Wiggle. So that's been everything from that first 33,000 or whatever to now that they're continuously ingesting. That page also had a number that I wasn't quite sure should be quoted, but for the 10/8 date that I took this, they were having a daily ingestion average of 41,000 new. Any other questions? Yes?
I just wanted to know if you had any plans coming up for your next rig, because it looks like you have a lot of fun setting them up with all the lights and stuff. I'm just thinking you're going to go even bigger next year.
Correct. I owe you a beer if you're old enough to drink. So everything did get bigger, and because of the channel hopping, you do need more radios. So the latest rig, which is very heavy, and I need a cart to drag around, I didn't bring out today. It was out yesterday. That has 32 radios in it. It has also a Hack-5 Coconut in it, so I cover the 1.4 spectrum with the Hack-5 Coconut, and then there's 32 wireless radios in that rig. I got some very, very good help from team members like Dragorn on understanding the antenna needs around that, because every Wi-Fi radio has 2 antennas on it, for diversity, for MIMO, for whatever it might be that I'm going to fail at explaining. But in the end, it's 2 antennas. So if I have 32 radios, that means I have 64 antennas. That was more antennas than what you saw on that crazy vehicle picture that had the 5 domes on it. So now we're into a lot of RF stuff, and I can't exactly answer it, but what I am doing is I am using antenna combiners, and that build will be on the blog probably before the end of the week, which it'll have a full schematic of the power diagram, because that rig now takes about an 8 amp or a 9 amp inrush of current at startup, and has about 5 amps of run current in it. So we're dealing with a second battery in the car. Now we're just dealing with, nobody said I shouldn't, right? So I didn't ask. So yeah. Yes?
With the Kismet SDR stuff, will it automatically pick up on these devices and parse the data, or do you need to tell it what you're looking for? When you're using it?
Yeah, so for Kismet, if you're shoving SDRs to it, you tune it to you have your source and you tune it to a frequency. So some of those frequencies in that ISM band, did I get that right? 433, 915, they have different things on them. So I don't have a screenshot of it, but when we go back to what we were sending, bear with me. So this happens to be on, dude, there's another version of the screenshot that tells me what frequency this is on. But you would tell it, you would just tell the SDR, you would just tell Kismet to open up this SDR and tune it to this frequency. So if you turn, so 43392, this gentleman is nice enough to explain to me, right? So now Kismet will take it. And anything Kismet sees from using the RTL SDR library, as well as what it knows, it'll parse and put in a graph, and in the main GUI of Kismet, you will see type of sensor, the frequency it's on, and then when you click it, you get through to this as parsed. So like if you open up the RTL SDR like command line, and then you just tell it to do something, you get like some text scrolling, right? So it's doing a little bit of the heavy lifting. Kismet takes it, parses it, and throws it up into here, does some extra analysis on it, I think, to get, I think to change metrics or anything like that for units. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I was going to ask, have you ever gotten in trouble doing this?
So we'd have to define trouble. So there are certainly things about WarDriving where you want to observe all roads and laws and legal areas in your state, country, town, local town, private roads, those types of things. I've never been in trouble. I've been asked, what am I doing here? I've been stopped in New York City asking if I'm the Google car, which never makes any sense to me. But no, I haven't really been in trouble. Like I mentioned before, I got pulled over in Brooklyn for a ride on red, and nobody looked at the 72 antennas on the car and all the chaos that it looked like. And usually when that one rig that I had built was in the car, it usually had the lights on, so it's usually glowing in the trunk through the back rear deck. So you end up with showing up to a car and blue is just glowing in the back. But no, haven't been in trouble. You end up a lot of times just being very cautious about where you're going. I'm on Long Island. We have a lot of private roads or roads that people want to say are private. So you have to make some decisions around that. Gated communities. Speak to me later. We could talk about gated communities, but no, I haven't been in trouble or asked anything deep about this. I drove the vehicle with the 2 patch antennas and the single dome on top of the car all through Washington, D.C. when I went to SHMU this year, and I don't think I was even glanced at. So no, I've been, well, you know what, now I have to go find wood. But I've been fairly lucky with not having anybody ask what I'm doing and where I am. There are things that you guys need to think about if you're going to do some WarDriving with large rigs and packet capture in terms of your state's laws for capturing data in the air. I am not a lawyer. I recommend you find a friend. Who's the lawyer? That's good, thank you. Find a friend that is a lawyer. All right, anything else? Who's gonna go do stuff now? Okay, couple. So join those Discords. My email address, my socials are all very open. You'll find me. If you have any questions, if I can help you, I will help you. A lot of the configs are in the GitHub. I try to share everything that I build. There is nothing proprietary about a lot of this stuff, and I'm so against any type of gatekeeping. So anything that I build, I try to share. Schematics, build logs, parts list, links to the things that I found are usually all on the blogs. And even today, I was answering some questions about the magnets that I purchased for the antennas to keep them on the car. Anybody else? Lock and load? All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you, JawnCon. I really appreciate it.